Welcome, 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 everyone, to the Women's Empower Network. I am so excited to have Anne here with us today. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. So happy to be
Yay.
here.
Well, and I'm excited to share you with the group and get to know you a little bit more myself. So, if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about your story and journey that led you to what you're passionate about today.
I'm smiling wide because it's life brought me here. And I don't know who coined the phrase life is lifey, but when I read it, I was like, oh, that is so good. Life is lifey. So I had a lot of lifey. And and it started at such a young age. And I grew up on a farm in northern Illinois and eventually gravitated to Southwest Wisconsin, where I reside today. And I ended up going into agriculture and scared my mother to death, I think, when I made that decision because I had my mindset that I was going to be this teacher. I really had this pull to be a teacher. So the biology department was consumed at that point in time. And dad's like, well, let's go see the School of Agriculture. Let's go see the College of Agriculture. So we did. And then I enrolled, and my mom's over there going, oh my God. But we got
Well,
through it. I worked for the government for a lot of years. I was a soil conservationist for almost 20 years. And it was a good job at the time, but I'm certainly glad that I no longer work for that agency when they went through COVID. So there's a reason we depart from things, and it just leads you down these roads. But I'm a farm girl at heart. I have been married twice. And I have a daughter, beautiful daughter, and she's married and has two grandchildren from, or two sons from that marriage, my grandboys that I get to see next week. So I'm excited about that. And where life got lifey with me, well, I'll go back a little bit, but after my second marriage, I ended up going through a massive, I would say, dark night of the soul, massive. And I found my partner, who is a dairy farmer, and he's the fire chief and his first responder. So he's a busy, busy man, but he is absolutely, I adore that man. And I always say he puts up with me. So life got lifey with me at around age 3. So I was fondled by my maternal grandfather at a very, very young age. And my dog is growling. I apologize. And
picking up on that
that
energy.
she just is mischievous sometimes and got herself in a gut problem, and that's her issue. But so I had this experience at a young age and it ended quickly, thankfully. But I think what happens is when you're in that stage, your brain is not, you can't sort out reality or be um, reason. You don't have that ability to reason or what is it. You know that your parents you look up to and you look to them for safety, and grandparents should be the same thing. Then as you travel through life, all of a sudden you understand that that behavior was not good. It wasn't
Right.
wrong in so many ways. And I choose not to use the words right and wrong now. They're just an experience with a positive charge and a negative charge. But I think too, my religious upbringing with all the dogma with that and sin, and you're going to go to hell if you don't do this, this, and this, and this. And if these things happen to you, you're going to hell. And I think you take that mindset and it molds you in a certain way. So in my adult years, I'm still trying to unpack that. And it's not true. Any of that I learned back then is no longer true or works for me today. So I just kept having these experiences and bouts of depression, and life would present me with another situation, and it just started unraveling. But that's the beauty of being in a state of depression is that your soul comes forward and says, okay, well, we're going to try this experience now because this one might rattle her a little more and kind of shake her up a little more so that she'll wake up. So it was this compounding effect, so very, very young age, had trauma, had a really good childhood, had great parents. They spoiled us rotten. We had every pet manageable or imaginable, ponies and horses and dogs and cats, and we get to raise up piglets. I mean, it was a great life living on the farm, and I adore that. And then I get into that adolescent age, and it's like you go through that who am I? Your body's changing so rapidly. My self-confidence was so low. And I carried that with me through life. So ended up getting married and then had a miscarriage, then ended up getting pregnant. But in that marriage, I was never happy. I thought if I did this, I would be happy. Or if I did this, or my husband's going to make me happy. And what I never could see was that happiness is generated within. I didn't know that then. No one taught me that then. I had an affair during that. One of the biggest mistakes. And then, of course, I held it over my head with guilt and shame for over 24 years. So once I pulled out of that depression, realized what I had done, and that I would never do it again, I began healing. But I also realized that that marriage was broken and that he and I were not good together as a couple. And if you ask my daughter today, would you want your mom and dad back together? The answer is you, no.
Right.
You, no. So then I ended up, going right into the next relationship. That one was more challenging. This individual has some narcissistic tendencies. But the beauty of it was that relationship was the perfect storm. My dad died on Christmas Eve in 2010. I'm in this marriage that's just rocky. It's all of a sudden it's going downhill. I thought it was great, and then all of a sudden it's going downhill. And where I made the mistake, because I'm honest, I was honest and open with him about the affair that I had in the first marriage, and he held it over my head. And then he began to believe that I was going to do the same thing to him, and it never happened. But that belief became true to him, and he could not get
Right.
that story out of his mind. And no matter what I did, no matter what I said, no matter how hard I tried, it just was a spiral downward. And then after my dad's death, I really felt like I was in this position of I either have to choose my husband or I have to choose my family. And that was happening before dad died. And before dad died, I pretty much made the decision. It's like, well, this is my second marriage, and I've made this covenant again, and now I'm failing again. So I'm going to stick with this marriage, and I'm going to prove to God that I'm worthy because I'm sticking it out. So then dad dies, more truth is revealed. So then it's this understanding at that point in time, it's like, you got to stick up for yourself. We started going to counseling, back on antidepressants again, and they just didn't set with me. And I finally went to acupuncture, and that's when I started responding. So when I was going through acupuncture and I was on the antidepressant, within less than 3 weeks, I had to come off that because I was responding so well to the acupuncture. I was at my uncle's funeral, and it was like I had this Cheshire grin on my face that I could not wipe off. And it was like, this is a false happiness. I mean, I adored this man. And he just, I couldn't get it out. And I'm walking around with this smile on my face, and this is ridiculous. And I went back to my acupuncturist. I like, why can't I grieve? He says, because the antidepressants are holding you at a phase that are not allowing you to respond naturally. So then I went back to my doctor, started weaning myself off. She was giddy and totally supported the acupuncture, which was wonderful. So I've never been back on them since. But
Nice.
when my dad died, that's when I began hearing things, listening to the voice within, and it scared me, but I began to start listening. I realized there was something more to me than all the pain, all the circumstances, all the experiences, that there was more, there was something in there. I had a fantastic chiropractor. I had a fantastic acupuncturist. They're like, man, you have to tell your story. Excuse me. Latin little dog. So it was that seed that was planted that said, tell your story. plus journaling, plus looking at, I really self-healed myself. So between Louise Hay, the works of her mirror work is phenomenal. Wayne Dyer, and the book that I bonded to was Ask and It Is Given by Esther and Jerry Hicks. And as I did those processes on my way to work, before I would go to work, I would journal and I would segment. And then on my way to work, get into this rampage of appreciation. I began seeing sunsets in colors that I had not seen in decades. I began seeing life. And at that time, I was working for a full service agricultural center, and they were long days. So in springtime, you go, and my time would start like in March because I was in charge of their seed warehouse. So I would have to start getting product out in February and March so that these guys would be ready to go to plant in the spring. Plus, I got to work all the spring hours too. So it was fantastic. But what they noticed was it was a very volatile place too. There was a lot of people that were not happy, and then you just only add to that. But as I began to do these processes and then apply them to the people who challenged me at work, and I started to look for one thing I could appreciate. And one of these guys was really challenging. He had a really fancy pen in his pocket one day, and I would just keep focusing on that pen. Boy, he has a really nice pen. Then I began segmenting. Wouldn't it be really nice if he was in a good mood today? Wouldn't it be really nice if he treated his employees with respect? And then at the end of the day, I would go through and I'd check them off. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So in my written journal, when I go through at night, that written thank you, the energy behind that and the gratitude behind that. And then the individuals at work, like, what are you doing? Because I was standing taller, my shoulders were up, my head was up, I was smiling, my skin complexion looked better. It was amazing because I was getting in tune with the real me, not the depressed Anne, not the Anne in grief. But spiritually, as I began writing this book, is when I received the download that when my dad died, so when you die, it's not scary, but it's like you get this opportunity to have a look around before you, and you don't really, you're just here.
Right. Right.
But before you leave that humanly type experience, it's like, what little trick, what little major magic wand, what gift do you want to leave someone? And at that time, energetically, when he died, my Reiki master, when I started working with her, she explained to me that my aura was like pressed to me and had like a handkerchief, jagged edges with also holes in it. And I had like cloaked myself in fear. And as dad died, he, like the magician, tablecloth, you whip it off and everything stays the same. He jerked
Yeah.
that cloak of fear off me. And boy, did I really start to feel because I had protected myself. In depression, you disconnect, you put a wall around your heart, or you box it in, chain it in, lock it, duct tape it, whatever you have to do so that you don't get hurt anymore. And then you sit there and feel, oh, I'm so alone. Open up your heart. So it was a very uncomfortable unraveling. Um, and I had many mystical experiences, and I was, what is this metaphysical stuff? And are there ghosts and all this? And it was like, no, it's just spirit. So I learned to separate out what your egocentric mind can start telling you stories about the metaphysical. And it's like, don't let it in. Just don't let it in. So there was a lot of that going on too. So out of this, it's like everybody needs to know that words have energy, that feelings have energy, that what you think has energy. And that was the drive behind my book. I began to study with Jack Canfield in 2020. So in fall of 2019, I was trying to get up in the morning at 4:30, spend a half an hour with the book, which was amazing because I was able to write the memoir, my story. But then it was like the complications of my ego trying to muddle through, trying to explain to someone I always say of my caliber, just common, just a regular woman who grew up in Midwest, went to church. I was kind of that normal, stereotypical social norm person going through. I was the good girl trying to get the good grades and all this other stuff, but no one told me that I could think for myself. No one
Right?
told me that I could feel for myself. So dad rips this cloak off. I start journaling. And then all of a sudden it's like, ooh, the pen's writing back. It's like, what is this? So then my acupuncturist hooks me up with one of his clients who was a medium, which was awesome. And I met with her twice. And the first time we got done with the session, she said, welcome home. That was eerie. I'm like, what does she mean by welcome home? Welcome home. You've come home. And I'm like, it didn't dawn on me to ask. I was just dumbfounded by it. And then all of a sudden I started writing, Dear God, dear Archangel Michael. And I really took off with Archangel Michael. And then I would get these responses back, be who you were born to be. Oh, that's kind of cool. Right again. Why am I so broken? Why is this, playing the victim mode? And I was a rock star playing victim. And then I would get upside down. And I'm like, what's upside down? So then I'd say, what is what upside down? And upside down is perception. So whatever perception you're seeing things from, turn it upside down so that you can see the bigger view, perhaps see your truth in that particular situation or person, turn it upside down. But the be who you were born to be, I understood that I could write my dad and I could talk to my dad, and then dad would end it would be who you were born to be. I'm like, oh, come on, give me a little more than that. Be who you were born to be, and I just copped this attitude about it. And it's like, what the heck does that mean? So I just developed this relationship with the archangels, and that's really how I did my healing. And it's just moved along. And when I got into Reignite Your Life with Jack Canfield, I had this awesome accountability partner, and she's like, "You are a channeler. Channel for me." And I'm like, and she goes, "You have a gift. It's called channel clearing," because she was very intuitive herself. And she goes, "Channel for me right now." Well, I can't do that. She goes, "You're a channeler. Just focus." I'm like, "Well, I have to do it on paper." See, put myself in this narrow box. She said,
Right.
"Fine. I'm going to hang up with you. I want you to channel for me and do what you got to do." So I did. Her mother came through. Somebody else came through. And then I reported back to her. And she's like, "You are spot on." And I'm like, going, man, I am no Long Island medium, because that was starting to happen. And I'm like, oh man, it's noisy out there. So I really boxed myself down. And I'm starting to open up to that a little bit more. But my comfort zone is when I work with my clients, everybody gets to stay out. So you're in the safe zone with your soul, and it is up to your soul if your soul wants you to talk to Aunt Betty, Uncle Jim, whoever. And they may or may not come through. Most of the time, it's rare for me to have another individual come through. It's wherever I always use the term fracture because you're not broken. So it's like it's not an energetic mutation. It's a pattern. So it's like you're, instead of being in flow with your soul, you're veering off over here. So soul's going to go over here, fix this to bring you back on center again. So I'm sorry, I'm excited about what I do. I get so excited about channel clearing because I don't want anyone to go through the pain and misery that I put myself through for decades. So from a young child in that mentality to getting into my 40s and 50s, and it was at age 50 that I began to feel freedom. And now that I'm 58, now I'm getting into more of the surrender mode of I'm really ready to let go of the person that I see in the mirror anymore. You know, every morning when I look at that person, I want to love her, but I don't want to be attached to her anymore. And that's that's like riding the rapids. It's not as uncomfortable as the dark night of the soul was for me, but it's the resistance that I can place myself in due to the habits that I created when I was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and on into my adult years. So it's learning to tell yourself that's not working anymore. Your working hard attitude is not getting you anywhere. If you would surrender in and be in service of, you're going to be much happier. And I just started doing that this month. I wrote my book because I've been working on this book since 2019. It is morphed into 2 books. So the teaching memoir, and then the other one will be the nuts and bolts, the guidebook to the first. And I know that
Nice.
that is all that's going to change. There's still good stuff in it. But from where I was at when I wrote that to where I am now, I know it's going to shift. And I'm in the process right now of taking a section that got really cumbersome because my ego was writing it. And now I'm letting the universe write it. So I went from 2020 into realizing I had this gift that the universe has coined channel clearing to in 2022 forming my own Facebook group, We Conversations with the Infinite, and going live every Friday morning at 9 o'clock Central Standard Time. I go live and I channel. That was a big step.
Nice.
That was a big step. And it's a relatively small group. I'm not that active in it, but I have committed to that. And each time I come back, and they call themselves We. We is a collective consciousness. So it's the entire angelic realm. There's ascended masters, and it's just embraced in consciousness of the creator. So it's the melting pot, I call it. It's the big pond. And sometimes individual archangels will come through, but most of the time it is a consciousness. And I can usually tell the energy. I'm not a trans channel either. I'm still there because I have to grab the thought. You know, it's that
Right.
vibration, grab the vibration. And if you listen to me, it mirrors. And how can it not? A channeler is a human being. You're still that person. You just have to interpret the information. And I'm not a, I've told them, it's like, you got to dumb this down for me, man. Like, don't get technical. Let's just talk in layman terms. And they give such wonderful parables on what vibration is, how to be in joy and have cancer. You know, it's all the tough things and the lifey that can you beat the drum of spirit. So in the book right now about vibration, they're giving me these images of if you are standing on the edge of a football field in center field, there's 2 drums in a harness. So you put your drum set on, you get all buckled in, you look down at the one drum set or the one drum and it has your name in it, on it. And the other one says Om. That's your spirit, that's creation. Then you get to walk out on center field. And when you're a baby, you're over here beating the drum of Om. And then occasionally you come over here because you're hungry and you beat the drum of you. And then as we go through life, we learn from our experiences and our teachers and our parents to drum more from the personality.
Yep.
Keep drumming that. And then as we get older and into adulthood, we meet other people on the football field and we just can't help ourselves. And we start beating on their drum. The one thing we're not supposed to do with the law of free will, which is a wonderful law, which is to be, do, or have anything in this lifetime, but respect that in others and not to feel, think, act, or respond on their behalf. And in a family situation, it's really not, it's hard not to beat the drum of the child because
Right.
you justify it that it's love, but your action is in fear. I know I used to drive my husband nuts with my daughter because I would let her do things. I would let her beat her drum because I knew that I had instilled enough into her that she'd figure it out. And she would every time. And as difficult as it was when she would date young men that I didn't like, I knew she'd get it and she would. And she's like, oh, mom, I hate it when you're right. You were so right.
Right.
It's
It
like,
is.
it's not a rightness. It's like, I knew you'd figure it out. You had to go through that experience in order to see, hey, we're not a good match.
It
And
is. And we and
it's,
we all are on our own individual journey, even if we're in relationship, even if you're a child parent, we're all on our own unique little journey of discovering and becoming and unfolding and realizing. This has been really, really amazing. And you have dropped so many gems in there that I want to invite people that if you want, she mentioned about mirror work and she mentioned about segment. If you want to understand more about that, put something in comments, and I know you'll be happy to respond
oh,
to them.
absolutely.
And if you're interested in having a session with her, we'll be sure to put her contact information in the comments, so that you can connect with her if you resonate with her and her story and her journey, and find out about her books, her two books that are coming out. That's exciting. So, so before we go today, is there any parting words of wisdom you would like to share?
They want to remind you to beat your own drum. Find your groove, find your excitement, find your passion, but beat it from the side of Om and be in the joy, be in the joy and beat the drum. And the life he's going to come. Then you can move over there and feel it, but then move right back over and start beating the drum in unison. Take the hand of your soul and be guided that way in a mode of service and then play that tune together because your soul's in it to feel all the lifey, but they don't want you to stay there. They want you to come home so that you can be in a place of compassion and appreciation as that person moves through it themselves. And it is practically impossible to be beating the drum of self and then go over and start tapping on someone else's drum and saying you're helping them because you're not in unison with your soul. You're not in unison with the soul, so you're not in joy and appreciation. And all you're going to do is add the energy, whatever energy you're tuned, you're tapping to, is you're going to add more to the person that you're helping. And
Thank you.
that is a challenge. That's mastery. So what
Well,
I
and
always
that's what
tell
we're
my
all.
daughter is when you're in relationships, ask yourself what's mine and what's theirs.
It's
Am I
good.
thinking for her? Am I feeling for her? Am I acting, speaking, doing for her? And if you start answering those yeses, then you need to back off and really help them that way. And she's 30 and I still help her. Okay, Madeline, what's yours? What's his? Because it gets lifey.
Right? And it gets intertwined. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And I still do it. I still do it.
No, I get it. Oh, absolutely. We all do. We all do. Well, this has been so amazing. And thank you so much for being with us today. And I look forward to seeing more of you.
Thank you for having me. This was a joy.